War leaves behind many stories, tales of courage, sacrifice, tragedy, and sometimes mystery. Among the countless accounts that emerged during the Iraq War, one figure stands out, shrouded in shadow. A phantom that haunted the minds of American soldiers and became a symbol of defiance to insurgents. His name, or perhaps his myth, was Juba, the Baghdad sniper. Tonight we go deep inside the legend. We will examine the battlefield, the people, the videos, and the propaganda that built a persona capable of unnerving even hardened veterans. We investigate the tactics attributed to him, the evidence that supports and undermines the claim that he was a single individual, and the psychological space where myth and warfare intersect. This is the story of Juba, the sniper who terrified U.S. soldiers, and the lesson his legend offers about modern conflict, media, and memory. To understand the legend of Juba, we must first return to the stage on which his story was written. Iraq, 2003 and the years that followed. The U.S.-led invasion toppled Saddam Hussein's regime in weeks, but it did not bring stability. The collapse of central authority left a vacuum quickly filled by banditry, militias, tribal forces, and ideologues. Baghdad's neighborhoods, dense, old, layered with histories and sectarian divisions, became fragmented battlegrounds. Urban warfare favors the defender. Narrow streets, rooftops, windows, and alleyways offer ambush points and concealment. American forces, highly trained but visible in heavy armor and vehicles, were contrasted against insurgents who could blend into the civilian population, strike from concealment, then melt away. By late 2003 and into 2004, sniper attacks, placed shots from concealed positions, began to appear with increased frequency. Even a handful of accurate patient shooters could inflict outsized psychological damage. The fear of an unseen enemy elevated small numbers into outsized threats. In these circumstances, rumor and reality braided together. Casualty lists were counted in briefings, but stories traveled differently, through barracks gossip, through messages passed on encrypted forms, and through the grainy images burned onto discs. It was in this environment, part chaos, part information war, that the name Juba would surface. They clarify the complex into a single image, a hero, a villain, a symbol. The insurgents who resisted occupation understood this instinctively. Initial accounts of a Baghdad sniper were scattered. A patrol takes fire, one soldier falls from a chest wound, medics scramble and the scene is sealed. These incidents, discrete and unconnected, began to knit into a single narrative through repetition. The name Juba appears in insurgent videos and leaflets, sometimes spelled as Juba, attached to footage of sniping operations. Film clips circulated showing rifle setups, targets revealed in crosshairs, and triumphant celebration when a strike appeared successful. The insurgents amplified these images, a single name made into many victories. For soldiers on the ground, exposure to such propaganda complicated the simple categorization of threats and introduced an element of dread. Their deaths might be filmed and flaunted as proof of insurgent prowess. But there are always questions. Was Juba one man, a small team, or an emblem, a brand for disparate acts of violence consolidated under one appellation? To the economy of insurgent propaganda, the latter made sense. One myth can mobilize many. Descriptions attributed to Juba emphasized patience, marksmanship, and knowledge of terrain. Snipers historically used three primary assets: superior optics and weaponry, concealment and camouflage, and time. Lots of unhurried time to observe and wait for the perfect shot. Urban sniping in Baghdad required additional tactics: awareness of traffic patterns, knowledge of patrol routines, and a capacity to exploit building structures, parapets, window frames, thin walls, to stabilize rifles and mask muzzle flash. Techniques attributed to Juba included selecting elevated positions overlooking choke points, firing at transition points where soldiers slowed, junctions, checkpoints, and convoy turns, using decoys and secondary shooters to mask the primary operator's position, and rapid exfiltration through rooftops and side streets. A recurring theme in soldier testimonies is the apparent calm of the shooter. A single crack, immediate collapse. Such poetic simplicity may disguise a more prosaic reality. Multiple shooters operating across divisions, using insurgent networks to move weapons and operators, or even stage footage designed to look like sniper strikes when they are not. The technical analysis does not confirm a single-man story, but it does confirm that insurgent snipers were capable of inflicting serious harm, and that the threat demanded a recalibration of U.S. tactics. When facing a stealthy shooter, military organizations respond with a mixture of tactics, technology, and intelligence work. The U.S. military increased rooftop surveillance, employed counter-sniper teams, and relied on reconnaissance drones to monitor known hotspots. Sniper detection systems, such as acoustic sensors, were fielded where resources permitted. Units adapted patrol patterns, increased use of body armor, and implemented stricter movement protocols. Intelligence efforts intensified. Interrogations, informant networks, and signals intelligence sought to identify networks that enabled sniper operations. Efforts to disrupt propaganda channels, seizing footage, discrediting claims, were also pursued. There were successes. Some snipers and teams were captured or neutralized, often after painstaking operations. Yet every tactical win was complicated by the insurgency's ability to adapt. Weapon caches moved, new shooters emerged, and local knowledge continued to favor defenders. The Juba narrative, whether tied to a single person or not, continued to complicate the battlefield because it affected how soldiers felt and how commanders allocated resources. Perhaps the most contested question about Juba is his very existence as an individual. Evaluating historical claims requires a careful look at evidence, motive, and the sources that promote stories. Evidence in favor of a real, single sniper includes captured footage, eyewitness accounts, and the repeated attribution of certain attacks to a single shooter. Videos, while often low in production quality, show setups that could plausibly result in accurate shots. But evidence against the single-man theory is substantial. Inconsistent timelines, geographically disparate attacks, and the realities of insurgent communication networks suggest a distributed model. It is also clear that insurgent groups had an interest in consolidating disparate successes under one name to better market their resistance. We must also consider the role of memory and trauma. Soldiers under stress can conflate incidents, misattribute causes, and create narrative coherence from scattered events. Journalists and historians, sifting through conflicting reports, often find that the romance of a single nemesis can obscure a more complex truth. Ultimately, Juba may best be understood as both, a name used by insurgents to brand sniper operations, and an emergent legend experienced as a real threat by soldiers on the ground. War is fought not only with weapons, but with the human will. Morale, the confidence, cohesion, and mental state of troops affects mission outcomes. The Juba narrative had a measurable impact on the psyche of U.S. soldiers. Units report heightened caution, increased stress, and a nervousness that changed patrol behavior. Soldiers described an aversion to exposed positions, reluctance to linger, and a constant underlying anxiety that could persist even when immediate danger subsided. For Iraqi civilians, the story carried different meanings. Some saw Juba as a protective avenger, others feared reprisal and escalations of violence. Insurgent recruitment materials used the legend to paint resistance as noble and effective, increasing local support in some communities. Commanders were forced to weigh the allocation of resources, invest more in counter-sniper technology and training, or maintain focus on other insurgent threats. That strategic tension demonstrates how a narrative, true or inflated, can change operational priorities and affect the course of conflict. Over the years, journalists, military analysts, and researchers attempted to trace the origins and specifics of Juba. Interviews with soldiers revealed vivid recollections, but often lacked precise corroboration. Some veterans told stories of narrow escapes and lethal shots. Others insisted no single sniper matched all accounts. Journalistic investigations found that many of the videos were tied to known insurgent media networks, produced with the intent to advertise success rather than provide verifiable evidence. Some footage was staged, other clips documented real attacks but were repackaged under the Juba label. Wartime narratives are shaped by incomplete data, intentional misinformation, and the emotional need for heroes and villains. Tracing the truth of Juba requires distinguishing propaganda from verifiable incident reports and understanding that both shape perceptions of the other. Long after the intensity of major combat operations faded, the name Juba persisted in media, forums, and documentaries. The myth outlasted immediate military concerns and entered cultural memory. The persistence of the legend offers insight into modern asymmetrical warfare, where non-state actors use storytelling tools to influence perception. In the same way that medieval ballads kept memory alive, videos and internet posts perform cultural labor, shaping identity, recruiting allies, and rewriting local hierarchies. The Juba phenomenon also reflects broader anxieties about modern war: the fear of hidden threats, the difficulty of distinguishing combatant from civilian, and the power of images to confirm or create reality. For military historians and media scholars, such legends highlight the intersection of violence and narrative. Thank you for joining this exploration into the legend of Juba. If there is a single takeaway, it is this: stories matter. In war, they can shape tactics, motivate fighters, intimidate opponents, and leave lasting marks on memory. The legend of Juba endures not because of a single confirmed biography, but because his name filled a need, one that served both the insurgent cause and the anxieties of those who faced it.